Hey YouTube, it's your girl Dr. J, and I thought I would come and do a quick video on a great app that is available on the Kindle or iPad, and it is called Dragon Box. And the premise of the game is that it teaches young children. There's even a version for children ages 12 and above, but it teaches children the concepts of algebra. And you have to choose an avatar, and they're pretty. They're not cutesy little memes, so they're pretty kind of disgusting little avatars. But you, I promise you'll be able to get past it. And as children work their way through the game, it basically introduces the concept of algebra, which is what happens on one side of the equation happens on the other side of the equation. And the premise is to always isolate the box. So you're going to have your box and you're going to have some stuff, and if you can get the box alone, then you win. And it's going to show you the concept of anything that can be eliminated to get the box by itself, you eliminate. And then it's going to tell you that, again, everything that can be eliminated to leave the box by itself is what you're going to be looking for. And you're going to be making sure that the box is alone. You did it in the right number of moves, which means that you did it in as few moves as possible, and that you used the right number of cards. So you use the right equation to try to get the box by itself. The next kind of premise that it teaches is that there are opposites. When you have opposites, they can be combined into each other and then eliminated, okay, to get the box by itself. And again, it has them practice those same concepts. So here the little dice would go into each other, the little fish would go into each other because they were opposites, and then we eliminate them, the box is alone. And basically what happens is you just keep going further and further. Do you need something, hon? Okay. You just keep going further and further through the process to make sure that you end up with the box isolated and by itself, which is the entire premise behind algebra. We have this unknown, this box, and in order to figure out what's in the box, we have to get the box by itself. As they progress through the game, through the app, the box turns into a letter. So it'll be X or N, or so it gets them familiar with kind of like, okay, now we're not really trying to isolate a box, we're trying to isolate a letter, and that letter is represents something. And the way that we figure out what that letter represents is we get rid of everything that's around that letter to make sure that, so that when the letter is by itself and we've gotten rid of everything that was around it, what's left on that other side of the equation is what the box is. It teaches the premise of what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side, whether or not it looks like that side needs it. So it's all these really intricate algebra concepts that are based in a game. All my kids use it. We haven't been using it a long time. We just started using it, and they love it. They absolutely love it. So it's really a good game. Especially if you can get past the avatars who are really kind of disgusting looking. But that's not something that we have a problem with. But it's really cool. It's very simple. It guides them through quickly. One of the things that I like is that at the top you see that 0-4. It basically shows that to get this right answer, you need to complete 4 moves. And so if you get the right answer, but it took you 6 moves, that means you did some unnecessary calculations. Sometimes that means that you ended up with things on the opposite side that didn't need to be there because you did some steps that weren't needed. If you solved the equation but you didn't have enough moves, like sometimes there may need to be 13 moves, and say you did it in 12. That means you left something out. So even though you got the right answer this time, that doesn't mean that you're always going to get the right answer. That's something that a lot of kids end up struggling with when they get into algebra, where they'll say, well, I got the answers right, even though I didn't do the equation right. Well, yeah, that works sometimes. But if you don't do the equation right all the time, sometimes you're not going to get the right answer. So that's why it's important to show your work and really understand what steps you're making. And it's not just about getting the right answer. It's also about understanding the equation itself, because you don't want to mistakenly get the right answer. You want to make sure that you know how to get the right answer every time. And also, if you do the equation right, that will help you ensure that you can clearly see calculation errors, because as we get into more complex calculations, as we start to add in negative numbers and fractions and decimals and those sort of things, that ups our chances for calculation errors. If I know I'm doing the equation right, I can find my calculation errors. But if I did the equation wrong and I have calculation errors, it's going to be really hard to try to isolate where my mistakes are so that I can fix them. So what this game does is it really gets children very used to doing the calculations, doing the equations right, so that when it comes to finding out the answer, they're just focusing really on the calculations because they understand the equations and they understand the process really well. This game, I mean, it's just designed very well. It's very inexpensive. I think on the Kindle, I think it was like $4.99 maybe, which is expensive for an app, but for what you get, it's great. And everyone in my family has a Kindle, so me and the kids were all on the same account. And so I can buy the game once and then put it on everybody's Kindle. So that really kind of cuts the cost for us. So if you have, multiple, linked iPads or Kindles or other sort of devices, that really helps to cut the cost as well. But it's still a whole lot cheaper than an algebra book. And it's a way where you can kind of introduce those concepts. Everybody talks about how we need to get kids doing algebra at younger and younger ages. And I'm not opposed to that concept as long as we do it well and we do it gently and we do it in a way that's not stressing kids out. And this is a way that really does introduce kind of the concept of algebra to really relatively young children, but doing it in a way that is fun and exciting and intuitive and that they can understand it, because it's kind of silly and it's kind of geeky and nerdy, but it's still really fun. So this is something that I would definitely recommend. Again, this is called Dragon Box. Let me put the picture back up again. This is called Dragon Box. And you can find it for the Kindle, the iPad. I think you can even just find some versions where you can just download them right on your computer. It's great. They have a version for kids under 12, and then they have a version for kids age 12 plus. But I would say check it out, especially if you're a couple years away from algebra, but you want your kids to start kind of getting start playing around in their mind the concept of two sides, isolating the equation. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. And also if you have a child that's kind of struggling with algebra and you want to find a way to help them kind of get past all the letters and stuff that they see there, because sometimes that's what's shocking to kids, is that you look at this equation and there are no numbers and it's supposed to be math. Well, this kind of eliminates that, because you don't even start with numbers. You don't see any numbers. It's just about understanding the concept behind it. So great app. I highly recommend it. It's fun for kids, but they're also going to learn a lot of those fundamentals of what algebra is all about. So hope this helps. This is Dr. J, and I'm out. Bye-bye.